The large window in Ambassador Jack Harper's office showed the 3 moons of Centauri Prime rising over the purple mountains. Jack stood with his hands behind his back, watching the alien sunset with a small smile. 30 years ago, humans had looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. Now, Earth was part of something much bigger, the Galactic Alliance. "Ambassador, the Meldery delegation has arrived," said his assistant, Ryan. Jack nodded and straightened his blue uniform. "Send them in, please." The doors slid open, and 3 tall, slender beings with silver skin entered. Their large eyes blinked slowly as they bowed. "Ambassador Harper," the lead Meldery said, "we thank you for seeing us on such short notice." "Elder Zix Vaughn, it's my pleasure," Jack replied, gesturing to the sitting area. "I understand there's a problem between your people and the Krell." Zix Vaughn's expression darkened. A dispute over mining rights that could lead to bloodshed by tomorrow. Jack smiled. "Then let's make sure it doesn't." 4 hours later, both sides agreed to share the mining moon and its profits. As the aliens left, Zix Vaughn turned to Jack. "Once again, humans prove their worth. How do you find these solutions that escape beings who have lived for centuries?" Jack shrugged. "Maybe because we're new here. We see things differently." After the Meldery left, Jack sent a message to Earth, reporting his 30th successful peace talk this year. When humans had first joined the Alliance, the older species had seen them as children, primitive beings who had barely figured out space travel. Now they relied on humans more than they liked to admit. In the darkness of deep space, the UNS Horizon glided silently among unknown stars. The ship's blue engines glowed softly as it mapped this uncharted region at the edge of Alliance territory. Captain Diane Foster walked onto the bridge, nodding to her crew. Humans worked alongside aliens at different stations, the product of successful integration. "Status report," she said, sitting in her command chair. Her first officer, Lieutenant Greg Powell, brought up a holographic display. "We've completed mapping this sector. Science Officer Martinez wants to show you something." Frank Martinez looked up from his station, his eyes bright with excitement. "Captain, I've done it. The communication breakthrough is ready for testing." Diane smiled. Frank had been working on improving faster-than-light communication for months. "Show me." Frank tapped his console, bringing up a complex diagram. "Current systems have a delay of several minutes between distant points. My protocol removes that delay completely. Instant communication across any distance." "Any distance?" Diane raised her eyebrows. "That's a big claim." "I've tested it in simulations. If it works in practice, it will change everything." Diane nodded. "Set up a test with Earth. If this works, Frank, the Alliance will never be the same." 6 months later, Frank's invention had spread across the galaxy. Communication hubs run by humans appeared on major worlds. For the first time, the vast distances between stars didn't matter. People could talk in real time, no matter how far apart they were. On Earth, in the glass tower of the Global Defense Initiative, Director Susan Patterson reviewed the latest reports. Human ships now helped patrol Alliance borders, though most species still saw them more as peacekeepers than warriors. Susan studied the holographic display showing Earth's 23 warships. Not many compared to other Alliance members, but humanity had focused more on diplomacy and science than military might. Her aide, Liam, entered with a datapad. "The Council approved our request. We can build 5 more ships this year." Susan nodded. "Good. And the special projects?" "Hidden as requested. No one in the Alliance knows. Keep it that way," Susan said. She looked out her window at the busy spaceport, where ships from a dozen worlds came and went. "We've earned their trust, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be prepared." "For what?" Liam asked. Susan turned from the window. "For anything the galaxy might throw at us." Little did she know how soon those preparations would be tested. On a normal Tuesday morning, Admiral Clevan of the Treasury Defense Force was reviewing fleet reports when his communication screen went dark. He tapped it, thinking it was a minor glitch. Contact the Human Communication Hub, he ordered his aide. Tell them we have a problem. The aide tried several channels, then looked up with confusion. Sir, I can't reach them. All human channels are offline. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out on thousands of worlds. The vast communication network that humans had built and maintained suddenly went silent. Messages stopped mid-sentence. Video calls cut off. The galaxy-wide web of instant communication that everyone had come to rely on simply vanished. On Centauri Prime, Elder Zix Vaughn hurried to the human embassy, only to find it eerily empty. The building was unlocked, terminals still running, but not a single human remained. A cup of coffee sat on Ambassador Jack Harper's desk, still warm. Search the entire compound, Zix Vaughn ordered the security team. Find out where they went. Security footage showed something strange. At exactly 3:27 Standard Time, every human in the embassy received the same message on their personal devices. They all stopped what they were doing, looked at each other, and calmly walked out. No panic, no rush, just purposeful movement, as if following a plan they all knew. The Galactic Alliance Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 200 species shouted over each other as High Counselor Drentak tried to maintain order. One at a time, he bellowed, his forearms raised for silence. This gets us nowhere. Zix Vaughn stood to speak. It is not just our embassy. Every human outpost, ship and colony has gone silent. Earth itself is not responding to any communication. Admiral Cleavan added, the UNS Horizon was transmitting data from the outer rim when it suddenly stopped. Their last message cut off midword. A Valoran representative, her feathers bristling with anxiety, asked the question everyone feared. Is this the beginning of a human attack? Have they been planning something all along? Unlikely, Cleavan replied. They left most of their possessions behind. This has the marks of an evacuation, not an aggressive move. Elder Zix Vaughn nodded. In my 3 centuries, I've never witnessed an entire species go silent like this. Something is gravely wrong. The Council voted to send investigators to Earth. 3 ships approached the blue planet, expecting to find disaster, a plague, an attack, or some natural catastrophe. Instead, they found Earth's defense systems active, but no one answering their calls. When they tried to enter Earth's atmosphere, warning shots from automated defense platforms turned them away. Earth wasn't destroyed. It was locked down. On the mining colony of Epsilon 9, far from major space lanes, Alliance investigators found something unexpected, a human survivor. Alice Winters had been working deep in the mines during the silent recall. Whatever signal had reached other humans had missed her. Intelligence Officer Nevtol, a gray-skinned Meridian with large black eyes, questioned her in a small room. I don't understand, Alice said, running her hands through her short brown hair. Why would everyone leave without warning? That's not like us. You received no message, Nevtol asked. No instruction to return to Earth. Nothing, she replied. I came up from the mine, and everyone was gone. Ships, personal items, everything. Nevtol studied her. Your people left very coordinated, very quickly. This suggests preparation. Alice shook her head. If we were preparing for something, I would have known. This doesn't make sense. Later, alone in her quarters, Alice tried to reach Earth on her personal communicator. The device, which had been silent for days, suddenly lit up with a brief message. Stay where you are. Be our eyes. The silence is protection. Before she could respond, the message deleted itself, leaving her more confused and frightened. 2 weeks after the human silence began, the galaxy started to feel the effects. The communication network deteriorated without human maintenance. Trade routes became dangerous as navigation systems lost precision. Minor conflicts erupted over delayed shipments and miscommunications. In an emergency session, Admiral Cleavan proposed a galaxy-wide alert. We don't know if this is some contagion, mass hysteria, or something worse. Until we understand why humans have gone silent, we must prepare for the worst." The motion passed unanimously. As the council adjourned, Elder Zixfon whispered to Clevan, "I fear the humans know something we don't." "That," the Admiral replied grimly, "is what worries me most." 2 weeks turned into a month, and the problems grew worse. Ships drifted off course. Colonies lost contact with each other. Trade slowed to a crawl. In the busy spaceport of Rigel 7, Captain Varl of the cargo ship Star Runner pounded his fist on the dock manager's desk. 3 days we've been waiting for clearance," he growled, his scaled skin flushing red with anger. "My cargo will spoil." The dock manager, a 6-Lund Trevian, spread her hands helplessly. "Without the human communication systems, we can only process 10 ships a day instead of 100. Everyone must wait." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. What no one had realized until humans disappeared was how much the Alliance had come to depend on them. Humans hadn't just operated the communication systems, they had constantly improved them, fixing problems before anyone else noticed them. On the Alliance flagship Eternal Light, Admiral Clevan met with his top officers. The holographic map of Alliance space showed dozens of flashing red points, trouble spots where systems were failing. "The Jaxari Confederacy has moved ships to our border," his intelligence officer reported. "They're testing our response times." Clevan studied the map grimly. The Jaxari, longtime rivals of the Alliance, were quick to exploit any weakness. "How many warships can we deploy?" he asked. "Half our fleet is having navigation problems without the human systems," came the reply. "If the Jaxari attack now, we may not be able to stop them." On Epsilon 9, Alice Winters worked with Alliance scientists in a hastily built lab. As the only human available, she had become incredibly valuable. "The problem is that humans didn't just build these systems," she explained, looking at the complex code on her screen. "We constantly updated them. Without those updates, errors multiply." Nevtol, who had become her unofficial guardian, watched her work. "Can you fix it?" Alice rubbed her tired eyes. "Some parts, yes, but the core systems need access only high-level Earth engineers had. I was just a mining technician." That night, unable to sleep, Alice stared at the ceiling of her quarters. The brief message she had received still troubled her. "Stay where you are. Be our eyes. The silence is protection." Protection from what? Her thoughts were interrupted when her door slid open, and Nevtol rushed in. "Come quickly," the intelligence officer said. "We found something in the last transmission from Earth." In the lab, a team of Alliance code experts had discovered hidden data packets embedded in the final messages sent from human communication hubs. "It was brilliantly concealed," explained a Valoran analyst, her feathers twitching with excitement. The message was split into thousands of tiny fragments spread across multiple transmissions. "What does it say?" Alice asked. The analyst brought up a partially reconstructed message on the main screen. "Harvesters returning. Ancient enemy. Coordinates enclosed. Preparation protocol activated. Maintain silence until..." The rest was still being decoded, but a set of coordinates in uncharted space was clearly visible. "The harvesters?" Nevtol looked at Alice. "What does that mean?" Alice shook her head. "I don't know. I've never heard of them." The news of the hidden message reached the Alliance Council quickly. In an emergency session, representatives debated what to do. "We should send a scout ship to these coordinates," suggested Elder Zixfon. Others weren't so sure. "What if this is a trap?" asked a Krell representative. "The humans might be leading us into danger." "Or warning us of danger," countered Zixfon. After hours of debate, the council voted to send a small, fast ship to investigate the coordinates. Volunteers were called for, and to everyone's surprise, Alice Winters was the first to step forward. "I need to know what happened to my people," she said simply. Meanwhile, on the border, 3 Alliance patrol ships encountered a Jaxeri raiding party stealing resources from an undefended colony. In the past, human communication systems would have coordinated a defense. Now, the Alliance ships fought alone and were badly damaged. As the Jaxeri ships retreated with their stolen cargo, the Alliance captain sent a desperate message. We cannot hold the borders without better coordination. If the Jaxeri launch a full attack, we will fall. Back on Centauri Prime, as the Council prepared the mission to the mysterious coordinates, long-range scanners detected something that made even the oldest Council members tremble. Massive energy signatures approaching from beyond the galactic rim. Whatever was coming, it was larger than any fleet in recorded history, and it was heading straight for them. The Alliance scout ship Stellar Pathfinder prepared for its mission to the mysterious coordinates. The small vessel wasn't built for combat, only exploration, but it was the fastest ship available. Alice Winters stood on the bridge, watching the crew, a mix of 5 different species, prepare for departure. Captain Lorne, a sturdy blue-skinned Narvian, approached her. We launch in 1 hour. Are you sure you want to come? We don't know what we'll find. I need to understand why my people disappeared, Alice replied. Whatever's at those coordinates might have the answer. Meanwhile, on Centauri Prime, the Council war room was filled with grim faces. The massive energy signatures approaching from beyond the galactic rim had been analyzed. The results were troubling. It's definitely a fleet, High Commander Velchon said, pointing to the holographic display. Over 3,000 ships, moving in perfect formation. Elder Zix Vaughn studied the readings. Have we made contact? We've tried every frequency. No response. Admiral Clevan shook his head. Without the human communication network, our coordination is crippled. If this is an invasion force, we may not survive. How long until they reach Alliance space? Asked Zix Vaughn. At current speed, 2 weeks. The Council authorized the largest military mobilization in centuries. Every available ship was called to defend the border of the galaxy, where the unknown fleet would arrive. Aboard the Stellar Pathfinder, Alice looked out the viewport as the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. What she saw made her gasp. Floating in the darkness of space was a massive debris field, broken ships and technology stretching for thousands of kilometers. Some pieces looked ancient, covered in space dust from centuries, or even millennia drifting in the void. Some kind of battle happened here, Captain Lorne said, standing beside her. A long time ago. In the center of the debris field floated something different, a massive ship, relatively intact. Its design was like nothing anyone on board had ever seen, with strange curves and angles that seemed wrong somehow, as if built by minds that thought differently than any known species. That ship is at least 50,000 years old, the science officer reported, checking his instruments. Maybe older. Are there any life signs? Asked Captain Lorne. None we can detect, but there's a faint power signature. Something on that ship is still running after all this time. Alice felt a strange chill. We need to go aboard. The boarding team consisted of Alice, Captain Lorne, 2 security officers, and a science specialist. They docked with the ancient vessel using a flexible tube that connected their airlock to a damaged section of the ship's hull. Inside, they found corridors that seemed designed for beings much larger than any of them. The walls were covered in strange symbols that none of their translation devices could read. These markings are similar to some very old cave paintings found on Earth, Alice said, studying them. Drawings that archaeologists never understood. They made their way deeper into the ship, finding rooms filled with strange technology. In one vast chamber, they discovered rows of large transparent containers, stasis pods, the science officer determined. Most were empty or damaged, but some still held preserved remains of beings from dozens of different species. These must be specimens, the science officer said, collected from various worlds. But it was in the ship's central chamber that they found the most disturbing discovery. A huge curved wall displayed a star map of the galaxy, with certain systems marked. Next to it stood another wall covered in symbols, different from the rest. "I think this is a calendar," Captain Lorne said, studying it, marking cyclical events. The science officer nodded. "If I'm reading this correctly, these beings, whoever they were, visited our galaxy every 50,000 years or so, harvesting specimens each time," Alice whispered, the word from the decoded message suddenly making terrible sense. "They're the harvesters." In another room, they found something unexpected: primitive human tools and weapons, far older than human civilization should have been capable of creating. And on the walls, crude drawings showing small figures fighting against much larger ones. "Impossible," Captain Lorne said. "Human civilization isn't nearly old enough to have fought these beings." Alice touched one of the ancient human-made weapons, feeling a connection to something she couldn't quite understand. "But we did fight them. And somehow we remembered them when everyone else forgot." Their examination was cut short when an urgent message came from the Pathfinder. "Captain, the approaching fleet has increased speed. They'll reach Alliance space in 3 days, not 2 weeks." As they rushed back to their ship, Alice noticed one last drawing: a small figure holding up what looked like a shield, protecting many other different figures behind it. At that moment, she finally understood why her people had gone silent. The stellar Pathfinder raced back toward Alliance space, pushing its engines beyond safe limits. On the bridge, Alice Winters and Captain Lorne shared their findings with the Alliance Council through a patchy communication link. "These harvesters are planet killers," Alice explained. "They move from galaxy to galaxy, collecting specimens and resources, then move on. According to the records we found, they visit our galaxy every 50,000 years." Elder Zix Vaughn's hologram flickered as he asked, "And you believe humans fought them before? How is that possible?" "I don't know," Alice admitted. "But the evidence was clear. Somehow, early humans drove them off. And somehow, we remembered." The meeting was cut short when alarms blared across the ship. The science officer rushed to his station. "Captain, we're detecting multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel all around us." Everyone froze, expecting harvester vessels. But what appeared on their screens instead left them speechless. Human ships, dozens of them, materialized in perfect formation. Ships much larger and more advanced than any humans had ever revealed to the Alliance. A familiar voice came over the communication system. "Stellar Pathfinder, this is Captain Diane Foster of the UNS Horizon. You've strayed into a dangerous area. We'll escort you to safety." Alice grabbed the communication controls. "Captain Foster, what's happening? Why did all humans disappear?" There was a pause before Foster replied, her voice softer. "Alice Winters from Epsilon 9. We thought everyone was accounted for. You weren't supposed to be left behind. I was deep in the mines when whatever signal you sent went out." Alice said, "Please, tell me what's going on. We'll bring you aboard the Horizon. It's not safe to talk openly." Hours later, Alice stood on the massive bridge of the UNS Horizon, a ship far more advanced than she had imagined possible. Captain Foster, a tall woman with dark skin and determined eyes, explained the situation. "Humanity has kept a secret for thousands of years," Foster said. "When the first humans evolved on Earth, they faced the harvesters. Our ancestors were primitive but numerous, and something about us confused and frightened the harvesters. Our unpredictability, perhaps. Against all odds, early humans drove them off." "But how could primitive humans defeat such advanced beings?" Alice asked. "They didn't win through technology," Foster explained. "They won through sheer will and numbers. And afterward, certain humans, special bloodlines, retained the memory of this threat through what scientists now call genetic memory. Most humans thought these were just myths or nightmares, but a secret order preserved the truth, preparing for the harvester's return." Science officer Frank Martinez joined them, bringing up displays showing vast defensive installations hidden throughout human space. We've been building these defenses for decades, hiding our true military strength from the Alliance. Why not tell the Alliance the truth? Alice asked. Would they have believed us? Foster asked. That humanity was secretly preparing for an ancient enemy no other species remembered. They would have seen it as a human plot to gain power. At that moment, an officer called out, Captain, the Harvester fleet has entered the outer defense grid. Foster turned to the main view screen. Show me. The screen displayed thousands of massive black ships, each shaped like a claw, moving steadily toward Alliance space. But now they were encountering something unexpected. Hidden human defense platforms activating throughout the border regions, firing powerful weapons that actually damaged the alien vessels. All ships, battle formations, Foster ordered. This is what we've prepared for. Today we stand between the Harvesters and the galaxy. She opened a channel to all Alliance frequencies. Her voice rang with authority as she finally broke the human silence. Attention all Alliance forces. This is Captain Diane Foster of the United Nations Space Force. The approaching fleet belongs to an ancient enemy called the Harvesters. They have come to strip our worlds and collect specimens as they have done every 50,000 years. Humanity remembers them. We have prepared for this day. Follow the tactical data we're transmitting and stand with us. Together, we will end their cycle forever. Throughout Alliance space, shocked leaders watched as the human fleet, far larger than anyone had imagined, emerged from hidden bases and moved to engage the most powerful enemy the galaxy had ever faced. The galaxy watched in amazement as the human fleet engaged the Harvesters. Ships that no one knew existed moved with perfect coordination, their weapons actually effective against the massive alien vessels. For the first time since the Harvesters appeared, there was hope. On Centauri Prime, the Alliance Council gathered around screens showing the battle. Elder Zixfon shook his head in wonder. All this time, they were preparing. While we thought them merely diplomats and traders, they were building an army. Admiral Clevan studied the battle tactics with professional interest. Look how they move. These are not new formations. They've been practicing for years. High Commander Velshon turned to his officers. Send every ship we have to support the humans. Today we fight together. Aboard the flagship of the human fleet, a vessel 3 times larger than any human ship the Alliance had ever seen, Ambassador Jack Harper, now wearing a military uniform with general stars, directed the defense. Group 7, reinforce the left flank, he ordered. Groups 3 and 4, prepare for the pincer movement. Director Susan Patterson stood beside him, watching the tactical display. The Harvesters are adapting to our attack pattern. They learn quickly. Jack nodded grimly. They've had 50,000 years to improve since last time. Activate the Phase 2 defense grid. Throughout the battlefield, hidden installations that had been placed near major trade routes years ago suddenly came online. Energy shields sprang up, trapping sections of the Harvester fleet in smaller groups that could be targeted more effectively. Susan activated a secure channel to Earth. This is Patterson. Execute Operation Remembrance. On Earth, deep underground bunkers opened, revealing thousands of smaller but heavily armed ships that launched into space. These weren't crewed by soldiers but by ordinary people, farmers, teachers, engineers who had trained for this moment their entire lives. On the U.S. horizon, Alice Winters watched the battle in awe from the bridge. Captain Foster directed her ship with calm precision, weaving through enemy fire to strike at key targets. Why name it Operation Remembrance? Alice asked Science Officer Martinez, who stood nearby. Because that's our advantage, he explained. Every human child has been raised with stories about monsters from beyond the stars. What most thought were just scary bedtime tales were actually our way of keeping the memory alive, generation after generation. We remembered, so we could be ready. The ship rocked from a direct hit. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. Shields at 60%, an officer called out. Foster's expression didn't change. Maintain course. Prepare main cannon. The front of the horizon opened, revealing a weapon unlike anything Alice had seen before. What is that? Reverse engineered from harvester technology found in ancient ruins on Mars. Martinez explained. Their own weapon turned against them. The cannon fired, cutting through a harvester command ship like it was paper. For a moment, everyone cheered, until the tactical display updated, showing hundreds more enemy ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They called for reinforcements, Foster said grimly. This just got a lot harder. In the Alliance war room, Admiral Cleveland received the human tactical data and began coordinating the Alliance fleet to support the human defense plan. Despite initial mistrust, the military leaders quickly recognized the brilliance of the human strategy. They're not just fighting with technology, Cleveland observed. Their tactics use the harvester's size and power against them, drawing them into traps and ambushes. A young officer approached with new intelligence. Sir, we've intercepted communications between harvester ships. They're confused. They keep referring to humans as the remembered ones or the warned against. Cleveland's eyes widened. They fear humans. That's why humans had to prepare in secret. If the harvesters had detected their preparations too early, they might have changed their approach. As Alliance ships joined the battle, the combined forces began to push back the first wave of the harvester fleet. But the reinforcements were still coming, and both human and Alliance vessels were taking heavy damage. On the main communication channel, Captain Foster's voice rang out. All ships, fall back to Defense Line Omega. Repeat, fall back to Defense Line Omega. The final phase begins now. No one in the Alliance knew what Defense Line Omega was, but they were about to find out. Defense Line Omega wasn't a line at all. It was a trap. As both human and Alliance ships pulled back, the harvesters followed, moving deeper into the solar system the humans had carefully chosen for this moment. A system with a dying star. On the bridge of the U.S. horizon, Captain Foster watched the tactical display as the massive enemy fleet pursued them, hungry for victory. All ships in position, her communications officer reported. Foster nodded. Activate the stellar harness. Around the dying star, enormous machines that had been hidden for decades suddenly activated, sending beams of energy into the star's core. The star's natural instability, combined with the human technology, caused it to pulse violently. What are we doing? Alice asked, watching the star grow brighter on the view screen. Creating a weapon big enough to destroy them, Martinez explained. We're going to direct the energy from a partial supernova. The star flared with blinding light. Special shields protected the human and Alliance ships, but the harvester vessels, caught in the trap, were hit with the full force of the stellar explosion. Hundreds of enemy ships were destroyed instantly. But not all. The largest harvester vessel, nearly the size of a moon, emerged from the destruction, damaged but still moving, and it was heading directly toward the human command ship where General Harper coordinated the defense. They're targeting our leadership, Foster said. Protect the command ship. Multiple human vessels moved to intercept, but the harvester flagship's weapons cut through them. Alliance ships joined the defense, but they too suffered heavy losses. On the U.S. horizon, Captain Foster made a decision. Prepare for direct assault, she ordered. We're going to board their command ship. Hours later, Foster led a strike team through the alien corridors of the massive harvester vessel. With her were Science Officer Martinez, Alice Winters, and elite soldiers from both human and Alliance forces. They fought their way through strange alien defenders, beings that looked like combinations of machine and flesh. According to the scans, Martinez said, checking his equipment, their command center should be ahead. They reached a massive door that wouldn't open. While soldiers defended their position, Martinez worked to bypass the alien technology. I need more time, he said as enemy fire intensified around them. Alice stepped forward. Let me try something. She placed her hand on a strange pattern on the wall, a pattern similar to the cave drawings they had seen on the ancient derelict ship. To everyone's surprise, the door responded, sliding open. How did you do that? Foster asked. Alice stared at her hand in wonder. I don't know. It just felt right. Inside was a vast chamber where enormous beings, 3 times the height of a human, worked at control stations. In the center stood one even larger, wearing what looked like a crown of metal and bone. The Harvester King, Martins whispered. Before they could plan their attack, the massive leader turned, looking directly at them. When it spoke, its deep voice somehow translated in their minds. The remembered ones. You should not exist. Your kind was primitive when we last came. You should not remember us. Foster stepped forward, weapon ready. But we do remember, and we've been waiting for you. The alien seemed to study her. Curious. All other species forget between cycles. Their fear fades, but you keep the fear alive. You teach your children to fear us. Not just fear you, Foster replied. To fight you. The Harvester King raised a weapon, but Alice suddenly moved between them. Wait, this doesn't have to end in more death. The alien hesitated, its many eyes focusing on her. You bear the marker. The bloodline that wounded us before. Martinez quickly attached a device to the ship's central control system. Device planted, Captain. Foster nodded. This ends now. We're breaking your cycle forever. The device activated, sending a signal throughout the Harvester fleet. One by one, their ships lost power, weapon systems failing as the virus Martinez had created spread through their network. The Harvester King roared in anger but could do nothing as its systems failed around it. 3 days later, representatives from every Alliance species gathered on Centauri Prime. The humans had finally revealed everything, their ancient battle, their secret preparations, and their plan to stop the Harvesters once and for all. Elder Zixvon formally addressed Ambassador Harper, now wearing his diplomatic uniform again. For generations to come, the galaxy will remember how humanity stood against the darkness. When humans went silent, we panicked. But in that silence, you were saving us all. Harper nodded. We didn't mean to frighten you, but some preparations had to be made in secret. Never again, Zixvon said. From now on, we face the stars together. As the new alliance was formalized, Alice stood at a window, looking at the stars. Captain Foster joined her. What happens now? Alice asked. Foster smiled. Now we go back to exploring. But this time, without secrets between friends. Outside, ships from 100 worlds flew together in a new formation. A united galaxy, stronger than ever before.